Hey, hello, welcome to today's episode. My name is Jeroni, and in this episode, I'm going to talk a little bit about conversation and why conversation is so important and how you can prepare for, some good conversations. Now, why is conversation so important? Well, basically, conversation builds rapport, and rapport builds attraction, and so on and so on. So, if you are someone who can get some good conversations in with a woman, chances are you can build some romantic interest. Now, why does a good conversation matter also? Well, good conversation means active listening. And if you are an active listener, you're gonna be showing some genuine interest in her. Okay, that is super important. And if you are a good conversationalist, you will let her talk 80% of the time. And she will tell you, wow, he's good at conversations. No, you're good at listening. That makes you someone who is good in conversations, on dates. Now, what should you do when it comes to conversations on a date? Now, what should you do? Well, first of all, and this is sometimes quite tricky, is you should focus on asking open-ended questions. That's one thing. So you should avoid questions that you can answer basically with a yes or a no, or basically very, very short answers. If you say something like, where do you live? Then she can answer with just the name of the city, and she has perfectly responded to your question. But also, every time you ask such questions, she answers full stop, and you need to restart the conversation. Basically, you're getting some kind of an interview. It doesn't flow smoothly. That's what you want to avoid. So you want to ask open-ended questions. So basically questions that she can elaborate on, that she has to elaborate on. That's super important. That's how you get the conversation going, and that's how the conversation keeps going, keeps flowing, without you having to put in too much effort. Right? And if you ask a open-ended question and she answers it, you can just be active listening and you can just keep building on one question, and that's what you want. So you can basically get a full conversation on one question, and you just basically going, yes, wow, wonderful. I'm just going to sound really silly right now, but she can keep going and going and going, and basically the conversation keeps flowing. So that's super important. So ask open-ended questions. Now, for most of you listening, this is probably kicking in an open door, because probably everybody has told you that. Like, ask open questions. Now, even though we know that we need to do this, sometimes it's quite difficult, or sometimes we do fall into this trap when we are on a date, and for some reason we keep asking these questions that she is replying with very short answers. Now also, if that happens, that also means that she's not really invested in the conversations, she's not really invested in the date. Because normally speaking, let's say if somebody asks me a question, let's say, where do you live? And I answer, I live in city XYZ. Now, I could basically stop the answer right there. Now me, I am somebody who likes to talk. I definitely like to hear myself talk. So I will automatically elaborate. But that's not something that all people do. Okay? So, open-ended questions. Now, if you ask these closed questions, which it happens, and it's not a problem if you do, but depending on the responses that she's giving you, you'll know if the conversation is flowing well, if it's going into the right direction or not. So if you ask her a question, for instance, like I just said for an example, like, in what city do you live, right? And she just responds with the name of the city, and that's it, that's not good. Now, if she's a good conversationalist and if she's interested in you, she will automatically continue by saying, well, I live in city XYZ, and by the way, I work there as well, and my sister lives there, and my mom lives there, and I've been going to school there, etc., etc. She will just continue the conversation by herself. Now that's good. That's good. That means she wants to talk, she wants to tell you about her, and so on and so on. So that's what we're looking for. Somebody who wants to talk. Okay? So open-ended questions is something that we want to do. Now, what we do want to avoid, now this is also a little bit tricky, is we want to avoid talking too much about ourselves. Now, I know we are the most important person in the world. At least I'm the most important person in my world, you know. I'm also the most funniest person, etc., etc., you know. And I do find myself very interesting, and that's all fine. You need to think that about yourself. However, if you're on a date, your date might not think the same way, especially if it's the first date. It might come off really wrong if you keep talking about yourself all the time. You don't want to do that. Now, I just said you want to let her talk about 80% of the time. Now, this is not a golden rule. It's not set in stone. But basically, you want her to do most of the talking. And you want to listen more. Now, you do want to talk about yourself, because what you don't want is by the end of the conversation, by the end of the date, that she goes, well, I don't want to see you again because I don't know anything about you. You don't talk about yourself. I don't know who you are. I don't know what you like. That's not what we want. That's not what we're looking for. So you definitely want to talk about yourself, okay? So you want to talk about your sport. You definitely want to talk about your hobbies, your work, and so on and so on. You want her to know who you are, so she can assess the person you are, and if she's interested in dating you or seeing you again, okay? So you want to talk about yourself, okay? Don't be closed off. You want to talk about yourself, but you want her to do most of the talking, okay? So you can also go for each, let's say, 2 sentences that she says, you say 1 sentence, okay? So that basically leaves like 70-30, okay? If she talks for 5 minutes, you talk for 3 minutes, okay? Like I said, it's not a golden rule, it's not set in stone, but just to give you a little bit of a guideline, she needs to talk more than you do. You do need to be open, you do need to talk about yourself, but you don't need to be talking an hour about yourself, and don't let her talk at all, or really a small amount. Okay, that's not what we want. Okay, so that's important, you know. Open-ended questions, avoid talking too much about yourself, but also avoid not talking at all, or not talking enough. Okay, so 80-20, 70-30, that's probably a good rule to go by. Okay, so you want to balance talking and listening, just like I said, okay? And this ensures that you have a two-way conversation, you know? If she asks you, like, what do you do for work? And you explain, well, I do this and that for work, and then basically full stop. And then you're just looking at each other like 2 idiots. No, that's not what you want. You explain, like, okay, I do this for work, that for work, etc., etc. What do you for work? Now, what is it that got you into this job? Okay, that sounds interesting. Okay, what made you choose this job? What made you choose this profession? And so on and so on. So you have to ask questions. So when she asks you a question, you give an answer, you elaborate, but then you also need to give her another question, right? It needs to be a two-way street. That is important. Now, you'll notice during the date whether you are having a conversation or an interview. You'll notice right away if the conversation is going smooth or if it is just really, really coming to a grinding halt. Okay? You notice. I've been on quite a few dates in my life, and in the past month, I've been on quite a lot of dates, and I know within the first 5 minutes when we're talking, I just feel the conversation coming to a halt. You just feel it. You just know, like, this isn't gonna go well. This is not a conversation I thought we might be having. This isn't going well. And sometimes, no, not sometimes, I do go on dates that within the first 2 or 3 minutes, I'm like, wow, this is really fun. She's talking, she's asking questions, she's interested, she lets me talk, and etc. So you know, okay? Now, some tips and tricks regarding conversation is what you don't want to talk about. So these are some tips, some tricks, I would say, is some things that you definitely want to avoid talking about, which is politics, okay? Because that, unless you are both on the same page about everything, I almost guarantee it will lead to arguments, discussions, and whatnot. And I can give you an example. Politics/work. I was on a date a few weeks ago, and we were talking, and I asked a question, which was work/politics related, something along those lines. I'm not really sure, again, what I asked, but what happened was she replied with, "That's a very silly question. I don't know how to respond." And from that moment, the date was dead in the water. And I'm not sure, let me remember I'm not sure what I asked, but it was something about work. It was something along the lines of, she was someone who was helping people, and I asked something along the lines like, your job should be to help people, and if you could, would you help everyone in the world? Basically, something along those lines, right? So I thought, well, maybe I'm gonna go a little bit philosophical in this date, but she replied with, that's a very stupid question. Basically, that's what she said. Now, the question wasn't really stupid and might be a little bit off, but the way she replied, basically, she killed the whole date. Maybe it was a silly question, I didn't think so, but she thought so, and the way she responded, it wasn't in a fun way. You know, you can reply if somebody asks you basically a stupid question, or a question that you don't want to reply to. You can respond in a light-hearted manner without just basically knocking someone out, you know. And the way she responded, basically the date was dead in water. It was over. And I just felt this date like coming to a full stop, grinding halt. I knew right then and there, it's done, it's over. I can go home. Now, why I'm saying this is that politics, work, religion, these are definitely topics that you need to be very mindful about, because if you're not on the same page, especially on the first date, if you don't really know each other that well, you're still feeling each other, you know, checking the vibe, looking on which page you both are, where you are in terms of values and such and such, you might get in some muddy water, okay? It's a slippery slope. Also, topics to avoid: your exes. Now, it's not unreasonable to talk about an ex, but if the topic of exes comes up, I would say just keep it very short and move on. It's something in the past, it's done, keep going. It's always when I'm talking in a date, when she brings up exes or she asks about my past exes and so on, I just respond with, well, these people, these women are in my past. You are here. I want to do this with you. I'm not talking about them. They are done. I'm here with you. I want to see if I can build something with you in the future, not something that is done, that is gone in the past. Now that's my thing. That's how I think about it. But talking about exes, it's once again a slippery slope, and it also automatically leads to, well, my ex used to do XYZ. My ex always did ABC. You know, you don't do the same things my ex did. Now, you are much funnier than my ex, etc., etc. You don't want that. So avoid ex partners. You don't want to do gossip, and something that I think is super important. Now, I think this might be, it's not a topic, but it's, I'm going to say it's a trick. It's not even a trick, it's something that you need to always do. Be positive. Be fun. Be lighthearted. If you are lighthearted, if you are fun, at least if you are positive, that will lead, or that can lead to some banter, that can lead to, some touchy-feely, making her laugh, and so on and so on. Even if, questions are tough, even if, even if she arrives late, even if the waiter is rude, even if the location is crowded, whatever it is, be positive, be fun. You have to. The moment you are not fun, especially on the first date, the moment you're not fun, the moment you are being negative, you're done. And I talk about myself when I go on a date and I'm speaking with a woman, and basically she's not fun, she's not positive. It's done. There's no reason to continue the date. I don't want to be with someone who is negative. And women think the same way. They don't want you to be, a grumpy guy. They want you to be fun. They want you to be lighthearted. If the situation occurs where it is a negative situation or a bad situation, and you can see the positive things in it, that looks good on you. That reflects good in you. That makes her think, wow, this dude stays cool all of the time. He's fun even in tough situations. Wow, he's a rock. He's tough. That's what you want. Okay, so be positive. Be positive, and that also goes to conversation. Don't talk negative. Talk positive. Talk about positive things. Okay, so super important. Now, what should you definitely talk about? Well, you want to figure out who she is, and she needs to know who you are. So you need to talk about, your interests, your hobbies, music, movies, sports, possibly future plans, traveling, your pets, etc., etc. So that she gets an understanding of who you are, without tripping into, tough topics that might potentially lead to arguments. That's definitely not what you want. Now, something that always has me flustered when I talk to guys and they say, well, the date wasn't so good. And I ask them, well, why? And oftentimes I hear this, but also on television when you see these dating programs, and these guys, they don't know what to ask. They don't even have any questions at all. And that is mind-boggling. Like, you're on a date and you're sitting there looking at each other and you don't know what to ask. You have no questions, nothing. I think that's mind-boggling. When you go on a date, you don't know this person. You want to talk to this person. You want to have a good conversation to get to know her and for her to get to know you. Now, you can only do this by asking questions and getting answers. Especially on a first date, you don't know her. You don't know anything about her. Now, it's tough if you've met online and you've been talking for weeks online, then you know already everything, then you don't need to ask anything because you know everything. But on a first date, you basically don't know who she is. So you probably want to know everything. So you do not have at least 100 questions to ask her. Minimum. I don't get it. Now, if you don't know how to come up with questions on the spot, prepare questions. You know, when you go on a date, make sure you are prepared. So make a list of questions that you want an answer to, you know, things that you think are interesting to you, things that are important to you, that you want to know from her. Now, I'm not saying make a list and take the list with you on the date and whip the list out and say, well, I'm going to be asking you all these questions. No, but you can definitely prepare some questions. You know, especially if you are dating on a regular basis. How do you not have questions? You've been on a first date more than once, more than twice, and so on. You've been on dates. You know what you want to know. You know what you want to ask. Ask these questions. How come if you are going on a date, let's say every week you go on a date, how come if you start in January, week 1, how come by the time we reach March, we're 12 weeks in, am I right? Yeah, February, March, 12 weeks in. How come by date number 12, you still don't have any questions? You still don't have any questions prepared. And vice versa. Answers. You know on a date what she's going to ask you. You know. You know. She's going to ask you, where do you live? Do you have any siblings? What work do you do? Do you play any sports? Where did you go to school? You know, what is your favorite movie? What music do you like to listen to? You know, if you could travel anywhere in the world, what would you do? Or where would you go? You know, these are questions, you know they're going to ask them because every first date is roughly the same. Because they don't know you, they're going to ask the same questions. Now, I've been on a lot of dates, and every woman has asked me, what do you do for work? What is your hobby? They all ask that question because none of them know who I am and they want to know. So they're going to ask these questions. Now, the first time somebody asks me, what is your hobby or what are your hobbies? I might reply with, yeah, I like to read books and I like to watch movies, for instance, very short. But by the date number 10, I have an elaborate answer. I will expand on, I like to watch these kinds of movies. I like to read these kinds of books. And last week I finished this book. It's a really great book. I advise you to read it as well. It's really interesting. It's and so on and so on. Why is my answer better than the first time? Because I'm prepared. I know what they're going to ask me. So you should have these answers prepared. Okay? So prepare some questions, prepare answers. You know, if you are on a date for the 12th time, for the 20th time, and she asks you, what do you do for work? And your answer is still, yeah, I'm an accountant. You haven't done your job. Okay, then you don't know how dating works. Well, that's probably why you're listening. But if after so many dates you still answer with, I'm an accountant, I work in a grocery store, that is not the answer you need to be giving. You need to be giving a more elaborate answer. And you can, because you know they're going to ask you this question. Okay, so enough on the questions and the answers. You know, prepare something. You know, you also want to make sure that, like I said, you want to be positive. So be light, be fluffy about it, be a little bit whimsical, you know, crack some jokes if you're funny. If you're not funny, then, you know, at least try and make it awkward so she gets a good laugh and you can laugh about it later. You know, you have to do that. Keep in mind, you know, when you're on a date takes about 45 minutes, maybe an hour. So, you know, you can keep it moving with some good questions and some good answers. And when I say keep it positive, you are on a first date. So you want to leave a good, fun, positive image of who you are. Okay? Let's say you've had a bad day and she asks you, hey, how is your day going? You don't say, well, it's been a shit day, my boss this, and some clients this and that. And no, you're going to reply with, yeah, it was a great day. Every day is great. You know, you don't need to elaborate on all the shit that went down during that day. You know, that's for date number 2. Okay? Now, something that you definitely want to do when it comes to conversations, you know, when it comes to talking, and here's also where a lot of you mess up. You know, when you're on a date, let's be honest. When we go on a date, you know, whether you are a woman or a guy, when you're going on a date, you're not on a date to find new friends. You're not looking for a business partner. You're looking for a girlfriend. You're looking for a boyfriend. You're looking for a wife. You're looking for a husband. Basically, you're looking for someone for a romantic relationship, right? Whether it is a short one or a long one, I'll leave that in the middle. So you want to make sure from the get-go you are not here to make friends. You are here because she is a woman and you are a guy and you're looking for a girlfriend. You're looking for romance. Okay? You're looking for something that is something sexual, perhaps. Not perhaps, but it's what you're looking for. Let's be honest. Okay? Now, if you are on a date for an hour, you need to let her know, look, I'm into you. I want you, basically. Okay? Now, I'm not saying you need to be a creep, but you need to let her know, like, on an intimate, sexual level, you're into her. And you need to make sure you convey that. You need to make sure that that message comes across, that she receives that message. Now, how can you do that? Well, you gotta make some sexual innuendos, you know? You gotta make some flirty comments. Now, you don't need to be overly sexual, you don't need to be like creepy, you know, you don't need to be a nasty about it, you know, but you need to be fun, lighthearted, flirty. You gotta let her know, oh, wow, he's interested in me in a sexual way. He's fun, he likes to talk about books, but he just let me know that he likes my dress and the way my legs look. That's what you gotta do. You have to let her know. You don't need to be scared to let her know that you are digging her vibe, that you think she's sexually attractive. Okay? You need to let her know that. Now, you don't need to let her know that on a continuous basis, like every 2 minutes, but you need to put in some flirty comments. You definitely need to make some innuendos. You know, you need to be a little bit playful. You have to. If you don't, the date will be stale. And you might say, well, I've had a great date, we had a good conversation, but during the date, you not once let her know that you are into her in a sexual, intimate way. And you need to let her know that. That's super important. Because if you don't, you cannot escalate the conversation, you cannot escalate the date. And that's what you want. You want to escalate it. Okay? You want to make sure you get that spark, you know? You want to make sure that you give her a comment, and if she's playful as well, if she digs you as well, she will hit you with the same joke, she will hit you with the same banter as well. And then you're off to a good start, you know, because the fire is starting to crackle, you know, the fire's, you know, it's getting heated. That's what you want. So you need to let her know. You're not here to be friends, you're here looking for a girlfriend. Okay? When you answer questions, you know, be engaging. When you make comments, be engaging. Like I said, if you want to make let's say a sexual remark or a flirty comment, you know, like I said, if she's wearing a nice dress or maybe she's wearing some jeans, you can say something along the lines, wow, your legs look really good in those jeans. I like it. Something along those lines. So nothing too creepy, but you let her know, yeah, I've checked you out. I see you have nice legs. You know? Or if you walk away, let's say you go to the restroom and you come back, You can say something, even if it's not true, you can say something along the lines of, were you just checking my ass? And she replies. If she's fun, she will reply with something like, yes, I was. Do you care about it if I was? You say, no, that's okay. I've checked your ass as well. I've looked at you as well. Something along those lines, right? You get the point. You need to be flirty about your answers that you give, so you give her an opening as well to be flirty with you as well. And that will lead to, some spark, some fire getting turned on. And that's basically what you want. So to recap, what do we want to do when it comes to conversations? You want to be an active listener. You let her talk most of the time. You want to talk as well, not too much, but not too little that you don't let her know anything about you. Also, things that you want to avoid: politics, excess, being a negative person, talking very negative about your day and work and so on. You want to avoid work and religion. You do want to talk about hobbies, music, movies, and so on and so on. Make sure that you prepare some questions. Make sure that you have some answers prepared for questions that you know beforehand she's going to ask you. Be fun, be positive, and definitely be flirty. Let her know you're not here to make friends. Okay. Now, I hope you can use this information, and I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. Bye-bye.